So welcome to the Chinese language panel for DKU Bound. I'm Jing Su, and I'm part of the International Enrollment Management team at DKU. Very excited to have you all here. Today, we will give you an overview of Chinese learning at DKU, share Chinese learning tips. We also invited students to share their experience, and then we will break into groups for you to have a taste of our classes. I will let our guests introduce themselves, so I will pass it over to Professor Zhang.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Suting, for the introduction. And hi, everyone, Vina and Jeannie in particular. My name is Zhang Xing. I am an assistant professor of Chinese and intercultural communication at DKU. I also coordinate the Chinese as the second language program. And I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves as well. Don?
Okay, hi. My name's Don Snow. I direct the Language and Culture Center, but I'm here really more today as a Chinese language learner who's been doing this for a long time. And I will try to give you advice that will help you speed up the process. But it is doable.
Yes. Hello, Vienna, and I'm Song.
Yeah, we're getting an echo.
Yeah.
And I'm mainly in charge of
Oh, I think you're muted.
I'm mainly in charge of the level 1 Chinese courses. So yeah, if you come to DKU, you will surely see me.
I guess it's my turn. Can you hear me clearly? Hello, I'm Wang Meng. Or students call me Wang 老师, means teacher Wang. So now currently I'm teaching 100 level Chinese courses at DKU.
And maybe our student panelists can also introduce themselves by the order of how they appear on my screen. I'm gonna call on Hannah.
Hi everyone, I'm a first-year Chinese learner before coming to DKU. I really have not learned any Chinese, but it's one of my most favorite experiences at DKU so far.
Avina?
I'm also a first-year student learning Chinese. I've never done Chinese before DKU, but it's truly been a great honor to be immersed in Chinese culture while here and learning the language.
Thank you, Anissa.
Hi everyone, my name's Ethan. I am a senior here at DKU. I started out learning Chinese and taking Chinese 101, and I've taken quite a lot. Now I'm up to like the above 400 levels or the like advanced Chinese classes.
Hi, welcome everyone. And so today here is a quick agenda for the panel today, and then for the first part of the sharing, I'm going to quickly talk a little bit about the overview of the Chinese language requirement at DKU and share some highlights of the Chinese learning opportunity both in and outside of the classroom. And then we'll hear from our student panelists and also Dawn, an expert on language learning. And they will share tips on learning Chinese, both from their own experiences, learning and teaching. And then the idea would be to break out into two groups, but also depend on your levels. We might as well do it in the same room. So the second half of the panel will be sharing some having for beginners, it will be having your first Chinese conversation, and then for higher level students, we could talk a little bit about your Chinese learning experiences and then do Q&A as well. Okay. So for the Chinese language learning, at DKU, all the international students are required to take at least 8 credit hours of Chinese courses. And then everyone is required to complete at least 200 levels of 202. And this diagram kind of shows all the levels of different Chinese courses offered here. You hear us talk a little bit about, the beginning level, the second year, third year, fourth year, and then there are a bunch of upper level courses, including some literature and film classes, debate, reading club, a variety of those. So the language requirement at DKU means that if you come in as a total beginner, you are required to complete 202, right? So you spend the first 2 years of DKU, you will be taking Chinese language courses mostly. Of course, plus other courses. But then if you've been learning Chinese before and you've been placed into, say, 301, and then the idea would be you're required to take 301 and 302, that's 8 credit. But then many of our students choose to go beyond the language requirements. So at DKU, all the students, all the Chinese language courses have a one-on-one coaching component. Student will get individualized opportunities from our tutors every week to help with their own language development. And in addition, we have the writing and language studio as well. So you will also have the opportunity to make appointments and then work with faculty language coaches there. So I highly recommend everyone to make use of those great resources for your independent language development. Of course, the CSL program organized many, in my opinion, great extracurricular activities. For example, we have set up Mandarin table as this designated space for people who are interested in having conversations during lunch time. So this is a weekly language table, but in addition to Chinese table, we also have language table in, of course, other languages, but also Chinese dialects such as Suzhouese, Cantonese, Shanghainese. Dong and Wang Laoshi here are regular attendees of the Cantonese table here. And then we also have weekly Chinese tea time events, board games, movie nights, a bunch of awesome opportunities. If you are interested, feel free to stay tuned to the social media platforms. If you scan the QR code, you can find and follow our WeChat official account. I'm also told that now we have an official Little Red Book account as well as a newly developed one. So if you're interested, you can try to search the same handle on there as well. Actually, today we're right after this panel, we're going to have our yearly Chinese language course fair. And in the evening, there's also the Chinese speech competition where we invite our students from, taking all levels of Chinese courses to share their experiences in Chinese in a speech contest format. Another example of our events is the Chinese theater nights we had from last sessions, where our students, get to participate in, performing on the stage in Chinese and with great events as well. You can find more if you're interested in reading the whole events report by scanning the QR code there. Our students also had opportunities to, to publish their written pieces on this e-journal called Intersection. This is also an e-journal supported by the Language and Culture Center. So for example, if you scan the QR code there, you can see some very interesting pieces. We feature international students and also Chinese students as well from different cultural backgrounds who will write about their different cultural norms, their reflections based on their unique experiences and perspectives. I mentioned a little bit about the upper level courses, right? In addition to the 101 to 401 at 42 courses, debate is one of our most popular upper level courses, one of them. And then we see, pictures of them. So in addition to learning how to debate in contemporary issues in China, we normally also host a public debating, events that's open to the whole DKU community, and you can see pictures of those. I think one time we invited, students from NYU Shanghai to have a debate context together, and that was a great experiences for the students as well. And I think this is the Chinese media class, and I'm not going to play the full videos, but if you're interested in looking at this, Chinese media class is also one of the courses at the upper level where students learn to engage with the social media and also social media phenomena using Chinese as well. This is, I'm showing screenshots of final events, final project from a Korean student. She interviewed DKU peers about their pre and COVID experiences at DKU and posted on a Chinese media video platform called Bilibili if you're interested in watching that. In some of the courses, students also gets to present and study with their peers, with domain expertise, with the faculty member to conduct and present research in Chinese. And you see the flyers from my Chinese for 12 class. And by the end of the session, every students are required to do a presentation on their research topics, ranging from Chinese medicine, the U.S. China trade war, the autism, children with autistic disorder, and also the new energy automobile industry in China. Right, so this is also a great opportunity to kind of explore your own domain, your own major using Chinese language. Of course, we offer many opportunities. So each of the Chinese language courses would take students out for field trips and cultural events, right? You see pictures of them, going to the matchmaking corner in Shanghai People's Square, interviewing and, just, talking to local people, local parents who are there trying to find a great marriage marriage arrangement for their children. And we also have students going out, teaching in the local primary schools. Of course, enjoying the local cuisine is always part of the cultural experiences. Some of the very exciting new developments, I'm not going into any details, but we recently launched the Advanced Chinese Proficiency Certification Program for students who completed 300 level Chinese courses, 302. And if you pass a oral proficiency interview, you will get a notification of this accomplishment on your transcript. And we also are launching our very first Chinese intensive summer program as well this coming summer. So if you're interested in any of the things I mentioned, either before after you got here at DKU, always feel free to reach out to the Chinese language program, to faculty member, or to the students as well. I'm showing pictures of Don giving us a talk on independent language learning. So this is one of the example of all the academic aspects of the talks, the workshops, and also on intercultural communication, on language learning, and also on linguistics on campus. So we have this very nice group of student, faculty, and staff member who are interested in and language learning, and hope you will be part of that after coming to DKU. All right, I'm wrapping up my part, and I want to now invite our student panelists and also Dawn to talk about their own experiences. Maybe briefly now, and then later on during the Q&A, we will have time to unpack and explain on more on those. Who would like to start?
I can start. I have a few things written down. So I think that like coming to DKU, it can be a little scary because uh, people think that like Chinese is a super, super hard language, which I think it is a hard language, but not impossible. But especially for students coming in who don't have any Chinese experience or have never taken a Chinese course, I think it can be especially like daunting. But I like truly believe that you don't need prior experience to be successful in Chinese, just a willingness to learn and sort of like desire to want to learn Chinese. So like for me personally, I started with 101 Chinese, which you know, the lowest level, but I've been able to learn a lot, so much so that I'm now able to read books, I'm able to write things, I'm able to have a conversation more or less. And so I think even compared to some students who have come in taking Chinese their entire lives, they might have come in, done some classes, but then stopped learning Chinese. But if you keep at it and keep trying, you will be able to learn Chinese, even starting from nothing.
I mean, if I were to add to what Ethan said, I think consistency is definitely a very good tip in terms of language learning. I'd recommend that maybe every day dedicate an hour to learning Chinese. And I think the way the program is also set up here at DK is like it's very good. Like you have time with your tutor, you have events to engage with the language. So I think taking advantage of all of those opportunities is also really good. I would also add that try to immerse yourself in the culture and see how the language is actually utilized, because I mean, we learn how to say some things in class, but I mean, going outside and speaking to locals, you realize that maybe there's some things in class that we can change up a little bit. And I think also engaging with locals, like maybe the DD drivers, or when you're taking the metro, you kind of get a feel of what you also want to learn in the language. And I think that also motivates you a lot when it comes on to Chinese. Like you have a goal in mind of what you want to be able to communicate. And I think, I mean, immersing yourself here also like helps to bring about that like love for learning and learning Chinese.
I jot down a few bullet points as well, and one of them is consistency. But to build that on, coming to DK with no language skills in Chinese at all was really hard, and that start it didn't feel really comfortable. But that's the exact point, especially when language learning, whether that is English or Chinese, where you have to like keep going, keep pushing through it, because that discomfort may be a sign that you are learning. And at DKU, the tools that will help you through that period of discomfort are really good. And I feel one of the things that you should and definitely can do during language learning, and things that I did that made the overall experience really enjoyable, is to ask for help, whether that is a language and writing studio that helps you either with correcture of your writing, or tutoring in general. At the start of the school year, I used it quite a lot because it was scary for me, but you can, through these tools, transform it into something, as I said, really nice, really enjoyable.
So
Is it,
oh,
go
you can
ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, so just like when I was like writing or preparing for this, I was kind of reflecting on my own Chinese journey. And so one of the things I wrote down was also like prefacing by this with like, if you want to be successful with Chinese, you need to be very intentional with your time. So like actually setting aside time to use Chinese, whether that be like watching like something in Chinese, listening to Chinese, reading Chinese, or talking in Chinese. So for me, one of the most helpful things outside of class that I've been able to do is go to the Chinese language learning table. So this is like a weekly event that our like Chinese department does, where we can just talk in Chinese with students and teachers. And it's been really helpful because I've been able to sort of translate what I've learned in class into something that like has more personal meaning with me, I guess. So like actually interacting with the language has been really helpful. And then also like going a little bit above the bare minimum. So I don't like use Chinese all the time. I don't spend all of my free time reading Chinese, listening to Chinese. But I think that just putting in a little more work above the bare minimum in the Chinese class will go a long way, especially over the 4 years, because like at the beginning, in 101, 102, it was kind of it felt like the Chinese language was just so big and there was so much to learn, but it's not something that you learn in one day. It's not something you even learn in 1 year. But if you're consistent over the 4 years, you will learn the language.
I mean, I would also like to continue because something came to mind. I think make language learning very fun. You don't have to only think of Chinese as a class that you need to go to. I mean, we're here where the language isn't really English or what we're used to speaking back home. So I think make it fun for you. Go on the field trips that they host, go to the events. I mean, I don't know. I would say like don't think of Chinese as just like a grade. I mean, you can't fail Chinese. I don't think if you're worried about grades, Chinese grades wise, I don't think you can fail Chinese. I just think while you're learning the language, make it fun, go to the trips, immerse yourselves like in the culture. I mean, it's just so much that I feel like you can gamify the language. So I would say make language learning like a game for you, like something you want to get to a higher level. It's not hard, I would say.
Tell me when you want me to chime in.
Anytime.
Okay, my turn. Okay. Yeah. No, thanks everybody. Just I mentioned it earlier and then Ethan mentioned it. I mean, I remember that when I started Chinese, yeah, again, there was this idea that it was like really difficult. The reason I picked Chinese as the language to learn was because it was difficult, so I thought I would impress everybody. But anyway, let me try to demystify that. Just, is Chinese really the hardest language to learn? I would say really not, okay? Now, there are some problems, okay? The main reasons Chinese is considered hard, the big one is that I don't know what languages you all speak as your first language, but in most cases, the languages we already know are very different from Chinese. So there's just, it's a bigger gap. Like if I'm studying Spanish, there are a bunch of words I can guess, and that just doesn't work as much with Chinese. The second problem is the characters, okay? Actually, the Chinese writing system is very efficient, but it takes longer to learn because you need to memorize a lot of characters. And that seriously does take some time. And the tones, it's a tonal language, and that's the other thing that tends to freak people out. So on the characters, okay? Stop and think about it this way. No Chinese character is intrinsically that hard, okay? They're little pictures, and pretty quickly you discover they're made up of parts you already know, okay? So it actually gets easier and faster as you go along. And, no individual character is that hard. They're actually kind of interesting and fun, right? But it's back to some of the points like that the students were making. It's like, if you stay with it and you keep learning more characters, you can beat this, okay? So that's about characters. The tones, most of you probably don't speak. I didn't speak a tonal language before I came to Chinese, all right? So I kind of had to relearn how to say things, but basically you just mimic, right? Think about it this way. If somebody knocks on the door and I say yes, okay, everybody after me say yes. Come on, actually, I want you to say it. Everybody say
Yes.
1, 2, 3, yes. If you can do that, you can learn tones, right? All right. The only difference is that for me, yes, the tone depends on where I'm using it, okay? Whereas with Chinese, you need to fix it to where the word is, right? But it's not that intrinsically difficult. And the other thing is, as long as you speak Chinese in sentences, if you get some of the tones wrong, people understand you, okay? Isolated words, maybe not so much, but okay. So, and the good news, ladies and gentlemen, Chinese grammar is wonderful. It's got the most reasonable grammar system I've ever encountered, okay? Look forward to that. Enjoy it. Pronunciation. Again, I don't know what languages you all speak, but most likely you know most of the sounds of Chinese already. Chinese doesn't have a lot of sounds that you don't find in other languages. Enjoy that. And then one other thing is that just my experience has been that Chinese people are actually really supportive. They really enjoy it, your efforts to learn Chinese. And something I do to this day is if I'm having a bad day, I just feel bad about myself. It's like go to a store, buy something in Chinese, and they'll say, "Oh, 你的中文讲得很好," whatever, you'll get this nice, these warm fuzzies. Okay. So that's another reason why Chinese isn't as hard, I think, as people might think. Just a couple tips, and most of these are repeats of things that have already been said. One piece of advice, don't just rely on the course. Don't just take the course. Figure your goal is to learn the language. The course is part of it. But like what's Ethan's, your point, it's like put in a little extra, okay? Or I mean, some of the ideas, do a couple extra things so that you're always driving the car rather than just sitting on the bus and winding up wherever it does, okay? A little goes a long way. 2, make sure you don't just learn words, learn grammar rules. Make sure you practice skills, especially in the beginning, I would say speaking, okay? Focus a lot on that. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to use, the more practice opportunities you get. And last but not least, and again, this echoes a point several people have already made, I would encourage you right from the beginning, yes, do all your Chinese homework, but kind of pick something else, a little project of your own. Like maybe it's the habit of, going on a bunch of field trips and making sure you make a conscious effort to speak to somebody in Chinese. Or maybe it's doing a little bit of extra reading or something, but kind of have your own little Chinese project on the side, something that works for you and fits your goals. And that's kind of how you make sure you get in the habit of taking control of your own Chinese learning. My first couple of years of Chinese, I just did what the teacher asked and I took the tests and I passed them, not with good grades, but I passed them, okay? And I didn't learn much Chinese. When I came back to it later for the first time, I really decided I'm going to learn this language. And that's when I started making progress. So I'm speaking from experience. Well, and I'm currently studying Suzhonese with Wang Laosu, who's sitting there in front. Yeah, right, okay. And what we do, part of it is we work with the textbook and she takes me through and she tries to teach me to pronounce the words properly. By the way, Suzhonese is a lot of fun, but it's harder to pronounce than Mandarin, okay? But then the other stuff we do is we just talk about things and she makes me try to explain DKU policy in Suzhonese. And I struggle a lot, but it's really good practice. So I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Don, and thank you all the student panelists for sharing your Chinese learning experiences. I love hearing all the stories from you. I guess I would like to also ask our audience and which level of Chinese that you currently speak, or if you are a total beginner, that's fine too. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your background as well? It will help us to, I guess, to make a decision. Oh, so we see Liddy said absolutely no experience. That's great. What about Vienna?
Hi, yeah. I have no experience. I've been doing like Duolingo for like a week, so like I know like Mifan is rice and stuff like that, but I don't really know much.
Great, taking initiative already. Guinea?
We just have one more. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We just have one more student joining and sorry.
No worries. So I'm the parent. So we have lived in Singapore and we moved to the US for past 3 years. And so we do speak a bit of Chinese. My husband also speaks Chinese and we also speak French at home. So we're really looking forward to, to improving our child's Mandarin if she gets, when she gets to take the classes. Because I think it's a very different thing when you learn from just textbooks. And when you learn in a living environment where you are immersed and you could have the option of, ordering your food in Chinese and English if you wanted to. And so I think that's a really good exposure. And it's a very big place to also listen to different dialects. So that's been great.
Great, thank you. I know we have one student who just joined. Hi, can you hear us? Do you
Hubert?
mind? Yes. Are you there? We're asking the students to introduce themselves a little bit. But if you can't hear us, that's fine too. I guess how should we do this, Don Ting? Do you think we should and Li 老师, Wang 老师, should we still break into two groups, or should we do them together in one session?
Well, it looks like most people are beginning. Ginny, is Caroline, is she still at kind of a beginning level? Like how much Chinese?
So she's taken the AP advanced class in Chinese. I think she can speak Chinese. Of course, is maybe slightly differently or less fluently. But she can definitely read and write.
Oh, okay.
But she finished her AP level Chinese, I would say, in her sophomore year. Because in Singapore, when we were studying and living there, when she was studying and living there, she did have to take Chinese as a second language. And I think she fast-tracked here because of the foundation. But then, we haven't had Chinese classes for 2 grades.
Okay, so I think in that case, maybe we should still break into the beginner level and the upper level so that we could have more targeted conversations about Chinese learning. How's that? But before we do that, I'll just quickly show the contact information of everyone who, the faculty and student panelists today. And also I listed the Chinese Language Center's email for anyone who has any questions about Chinese learning between now and, near future, feel free to reach out to us, all right? I guess for the beginners, I'm gonna ask you to stay here in the same room, no need to do anything. And then Li 老师 and Wang 老师, as well as our our student panelists, 2 of them will stay here with you. And for the higher level students, parents, please join us in the different Zoom meeting. I'm gonna leave now so that I can start this other Zoom meeting. But before we go, I think Ting has an announcement, correct?
Yeah. So because we are not coming back after the class, so before I personally say goodbye, I do want to remind you that we still have one more event going on April 19th. It's our senior student panel. We invited 6 senior students at DKU to talk about their journey here and their next stop as well. And they will also share how they've reached where they are now. In terms of career or academia. So I hope to see you all there. Okay, so have a good rest of your day. I will leave you all to our professors. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, and how many do we have here? Ginny, not Ginny, maybe Vienna, Lily, and Hubert. You will stay here for sure, right? Hello, everybody, and or 你好 in Chinese. For the next 20 minutes, I will just quickly give you an overview of level 1 Chinese courses, and then Professor Wang Lao Shi will just teach you some really basic Chinese sentences or expressions for you to get a sense how it works here. And if you still have time, I will give you some time to ask questions, ask Avina and Hannah some questions regarding their learning experience. Okay, Wang Lao Shi, please. Next slide.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So a few things that you will need to do when you are here to learn Chinese at the beginning level. So before class, you will need to preview, read some vocabulary and lesson text. And more importantly, you will need to memorize some the dialogues so that you can perform in class. And the goal of 100 level Chinese is appropriate use of Chinese. So not only just memorizing some vocabulary or expressions, but the most important thing is that when you can use that at the right time. For example, when you are getting others' help, what can you say? And what is the most appropriate way to say that at the right time? Okay, next slide.
Oops.
Okay, here are some milestones of our Chinese course. We call it milestone because these are some major tasks that you will need to do throughout the whole year. As you can see that maybe in session 1, which is maybe 2 or 3 weeks after you start learning Chinese, our task is take a selfie with a Chinese student and introduce them to your teacher and classmates. Okay, and later on, you will progress to something like inviting your friend to a lunch or dinner, or invite your friends to your dorm. Okay, and in the end of the whole year, the things you will need to do is write a travel guide of your hometown and present it to everybody. So which is already quite a big jump from the beginning when you don't have any knowledge of Chinese, right? Okay. Next slide. Okay, then Wang Laoshi will give you some exercise of learning Chinese.
Okay, today maybe it's your first Chinese group class. We will practice in this context, DKU orientation week. So we will learn what you can say, what you can do during this context in Chinese. Okay. So how? Okay. 跟我说 means read after me or say it with me. 跟我说 so 跟我说你好。
你好。
你好。你好，你好，你好，Vienna，你好，你好，Lily，对，好，那李老师，我们来做一个这个好吗？
Why don't you just invite one of the students to do it this year?
OK，好，哎，好，没问题。Hanna，我是王萌，你呢？
我是包怀爱。
啊，你好。
你好。
Avena，我是王萌，你呢？
我是戴福。
你好。
你好。
So OK，好，那 Vienna，我是王萌，你呢？
我是 Vienna，你呢？
我是王萌，你好。Is Hubert here? Okay, if no, it's okay. Okay, 好。我是中国人，你呢？中国人，中国人，中国人。我是中国人，你呢？我
美
是
国人。
美国人，美国人。So what does 美国人 mean, Vienna?
American。
对对。那 Vienna, where are you from?
美国人。
哦，好的好的，那 we can go back to this slide. OK, Vienna，我是中国人，你呢？
我是美国人。
哦，很好很好。OK，那我们到这儿来。好 ，orientation，DK orientation。OK，你好，Hanna，你是王鹏，我是白英爱。OK，你好。
你好。
我是王萌，你呢？
我是包怀爱。
哦，我是中国人，你呢？
我是捷克国人。
好的，谢谢怀爱。 Vienna？你好，
你好，
我是王蒙，你呢？
我是 Vienna，
哦，我是中国人，你呢？
我是美国人。
非常好，非常好。好，Avena and Vienna, can you do this dialogue? Imagine you are two freshmen and meeting at this in this context. Vienna, you can go first.
你好，
你好，
我是 Vienna，你呢？
我是戴福，
我是美国人，你呢？
我是牙买加人。
You can do a dialogue already. Great. So I guess you are prepared for the orientation week, first Chinese dialogue. Great, great. Vienna, I don't know if you are curious, like why Hannah say 我是包怀 and why Avena say 我是戴福, because those are their Chinese names. So when you take Chinese course, we will give you, them some Chinese names. So if you want, you can leave in the chat box, and Hubert as well. If you can type in the chat box, like how do you want your Chinese name be? Like you can say like I want it to be translated phonetically, or you want to add some good meaning in your Chinese name. We can help you with that. Yeah. Okay. So I guess now we can, okay, Zhang Laoshi earlier already discussed about this. So I guess now let's go to the Q&A session. So we actually prepared some questions. So, but feel free to ask your own questions. But if you don't have anything particular on your mind, you can also start from these questions. Okay. So now,
Yeah, you can choose any question that you like want to know more and
Yeah.
ask Avina and Hannah. They will share with you some of their experience.
I mean, I think what you guys said earlier was really helpful. But yeah, I do like question number 3. Like, how much time do you spend like on like your average day? I know you mentioned like an hour earlier.
I can go first. So at the start of the school year, I was learning Chinese, especially because I was not used to it at all. I came here to China with knowing extremely little about the culture, extremely little about the language. It was just like a really, I guess, impulsive decision to go here. So to look at the Chinese characters, because I come from Czech Republic, we do not have a character system. It was super confusing, and I spent around even like 2 hours a day, almost every single day, like at least looking at the characters. Writing like a simple wall was like a matter for me of like 30 minutes actually learning it and memorizing it. It was super difficult for me. But right now it is for classwork is like 30 minutes per day if I really want to memorize it and like let that sink in, actually understand the grammar structures and the words and perhaps the tones, because I think that is my weakest spot, which is also like important to know where you can do better and what sort of aspects of your language learning is strong. For me, it's the tones. But I also am really fortunate that I have an amazing roommate, because at DKU you are in your first year assigned to a Chinese roommate, which is a really good thing. So your Chinese roommate can help you not only with language learning, but with Chinese culture immersion and usage of like QQ or 小红书, like Chinese social media. And so we usually spend some time together, and she explains to me like different cultural phenomena for the independent learning project that we presented like a week ago. My topic was Taylor Swift, which is like a really, I guess, niche topic when it comes to like really beginner learning. So overall, it used to be much lot in terms of time, but right now I think it is much more richer, even time-wise, when it comes to like a cultural immersion for me.
I mean, if I were to piggyback off of Hannah, I think when you first get here, like maybe in the first couple months, you will spend a lot of time learning Chinese. Like I think Hannah and I kind of share that same schedule where in the beginning we're spending like hours like for the dialogues, but as you go along, you realize that you don't really need all that time to learn Chinese. You get used to like the flow, and everything is also laid out for you. So like when you get onto Canvas, you see what you have to do every week. And so like pretty quickly you get used to the system of how Chinese works, and then you can spend less and less time. But if I were to give you like a recommendation, I would say like at least an hour a day, like just sit like with the work that you have to do for Chinese, and also yeah, just like do it. And I think also with characters, like one habit that I took on, and I think like if you get here, you should also do, is I have a notebook where I also like practice the characters that we get. So like pretty quickly, like I memorize how to write Chinese characters. So I would say like just have a notebook from the beginning of like Chinese lessons and like start writing those like multiple times. And so that's also like a very good way to like remember characters.
Yeah, I actually did start doing that. We had a Japanese exchange student stay with us for a year, and she had a notebook where she would write the translation from like the Japanese characters to English. So I got the idea from her, and I have like started doing it with just the few that I've been practicing. But it is really helpful. I've also noticed like in like the characters that like today I was like looking at the character for like doctor, and it looked like it kind of had the character for like Ren for like person. Like do the characters like kind of overlap like that?
Yeah, they do. And that's also like a very good like tip to like identifying, we call them radicals. Some characters share like similar parts. And so that's also a very good tip when learning characters. You'd remember like a certain part of a character that it shares with like maybe another character. That's also like a very good tip when remembering Chinese characters. So they do overlap, yeah.
Thank you. I just have like one more question. I've had a lot of people tell me like one way to like start recognizing languages, especially like with the sound, is like watching like shows and stuff like in the language. Is there any like Chinese like dramas you guys would recommend or anything like that?
Well, I do not really have recommendations for that because I do not watch many things, but I can recommend installing Xiaohongshu because it is really fun. You can actually see how it may or may not be in China before coming here. And you can also like watch a little snippets or something there, but maybe Vina or someone else has like better recommendations for the dramas itself.
I also share the same sentiment, like Xia Hongshu. I think for us Gen Z, like the closest thing to that for us, maybe as an American, is TikTok. I think that's like what we watch a lot. So I think to keep you interested, Xia Hongshu is like a very good recommendation in terms of like hearing the language. But for me, I think whilst being here, you might not have time to like spend hours on Xiaohongshu. So I think like going out and listening to the locals, because I think like when I hear them speak, that's when I really pick up on like language sometimes. Even though I don't fully understand, I think I hear words that I recognize, and I think that like helps a lot with like learning. And I think you also have like maybe just a couple months before you come here. So like when you're here, you'll definitely hear the language as well. So I mean, besides Xiaohongshu, I think just being here like would help you enough. Yeah.
What's the English name for 小红书 again? Little Red Note?
Yeah, or a little red book or something. But to like piggyback off what Avina said, I think it's really true to like go out and try to talk to people. One amazing thing about China that I've experienced so far is that people are really welcoming here. They, you know, may look like, say, oh, Waigoran, foreigner, but that's because they're curious and they want the interaction. Usually they want to talk to you. They want to like know where you come from, why you are even here. And that is the moment where you can like, although it is really scary at first, it can be really scary. That's the moment where you actually say, hi, I'm actually studying here in China. I'm really sorry, my Chinese is really bad. And they will say, as Don Snow at the start says, no, that's not true. And you say, no, that's not true. And even like these small interactions are like the moment that will help you much more than doom scrolling or like watching some movie, because what Avina said is really true. Or I at least do not have time for this here. But before coming here, I would suggest, if I look back, to try to immerse, if not in the language, which that is totally okay, at least in the culture, or just like take a brief look at the character so you know what to expect, because I know for me it was like a huge cultural shock, but that might be just a specific case.
Yeah, actually this week, I think, yeah, right from this week, there's a student who started a like drama viewing group. They so he will basically play a drama every day, like from Monday to Thursday and every night, just for people to view, like to get together, and no pressure, like no teachers there asking you questions, just enjoying the show. And I think the first TV drama they picked is called Ode of Joy. And I think you can find it on YouTube with English subtitles. Yeah. But yeah, as I said, I think you can download Little Red Notebook on your smartphone, and just I mean even there will be a lot of Chinese characters for sure, but the pictures and everything will help you understand what they are talking about. Yeah. But just I mean just get yourself familiarized, I guess, familiarized with everything, the characters, how people talk. Yeah. You don't need to like feel that you have to understand everything. Mhm.
I think to go off what Lila she said, I think don't feel too much pressure, like not knowing what you see on like maybe Xiaohongshu. I think you can definitely get around China without knowing much Chinese. We learned this phrase like 这个, which is like it means this, and it gets you really far. Like as a foreigner, it gets you really far and more in like most places, like pointing to stuff. Like you realize like how much you get done with just knowing those two words. And so I would say like don't feel too much pressure. Like even though we're telling you to immerse yourself, like even if you don't understand everything, like don't feel too much. You can definitely get around like not knowing Chinese, but I think you feel like very fulfilled when I mean you go out and you have these interactions with the native people and you realize that you can communicate with them. So I think don't feel too much pressure, but yeah, you can definitely like get around China without like knowing much, and you will learn like in these like 9 months, because we've been learning Chinese for like 9 months. You will learn enough to like survive. So don't feel too much pressure.
Thank you so much.
Liana, have you ever been to China before?
I've never been. I'm actually going next week for the admissions
Campus.
event that they're doing on campus. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Maybe you will see us when you're on campus.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah. And you know, there are a lot of like YouTubers who are like visiting China and taking like videos on YouTube. And sometimes I like watch some of those clips for fun. And I mean, you can also take a look at those clips just randomly. And so that when you come to China, it doesn't feel that exotic, I guess. Mm. Okay, I think it's 10 o'clock, so it's almost the end of the session. Thank you, Avina and Hannah, for being here and supporting us.